Alright, take two. Just so you guys know, it was Rasmus Sandin that went to the Capitals and not Justin Hall. So, we'll continue with the Clinched videos today with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, I apologize for being insanely late to this. I know I am. I know I'm very behind on these videos. I gotta definitely catch up, but we're gonna get there eventually. I have to make about 10 more. So, yeah. Let's get into this. So, Toronto. At the time that they clinched, 73 games played, and by the way, these stats are from the very day they clinched, I believe. They have a 44, 20, and 6 record for 97 points. They have scored 251 goals and have only let in 203. And then they are 25, 7, and 5 at home, and they are 19, 13, and 4 on the road. So, obviously, talk about the road record. This is something that I feel like Toronto fans have struggled with when it comes to games that, they're big and that they matter. And sometimes not even that. When it comes to games that, you look at the team, like let's say you're playing Arizona, for example. Arizona's a prime example. You look, you see, we're playing Arizona, not a big deal, and then they lose. And even sometimes when they do try really hard, when they do outplay the team, they still lose. And it just honestly, it feels like it's like a curse with this team. And a lot of Toronto fans will agree with me. It feels like it's a curse that they just lose to teams that they should be beating, and then they lose in Game 7s and all this and that. However, this should, knock on wood, this should be the year that Toronto makes it. This should be the year that Toronto does it. I feel like I'm going to regret saying that in about a couple weeks, but I really do believe that Toronto could pull this off. We'll get into that in a second here, but of course, them and Tampa are playing in the first round, so we'll see there. We'll get into a preview. We'll make Tampa's clinching video as well, but there's a lot of factors that play into it, and we'll get into that a little bit here in this video. First off, let's take a look at their leading goal scorers. You start off with Mitch Marner. He has 73 games played, 28 goals, 66 assists for 94 points. Mitch Marner been a really solid forward this season. I don't know if he'll reach the 100-point plateau. I think he's close. I'm not sure if that... I mean, of course, that doesn't mean they'll hit it. But I know he is close to reaching it, so we'll see there if he's able to. Then you have William Nylander with 73 games played, 36 goals, 45 assists for 81 points. I don't know why, but it feels like with a player like Matthews having a quote-unquote down season, it feels like Nylander's had a much better year or has played really well. I'm probably wrong. He probably was better last year, but yeah, Nylander looks really good this year. And here's Austin Matthews. 66 games played, 36 goals, 41 assists for 77 points. There's been that criticism of, he's not having a good year. He's overrated. He's the worst player in the NHL. Now, I won't disagree that when he had that 60-goal season last year, I won't disagree that Leafs fans were kind of overrating it. Leafs fans were saying, Matthews is better than McDavid and this on and that. I won't disagree with that. That's a little bit over the top. Not going to deny that. However, with the down year like this, I do have a feeling that Matthews is going to be a little bit pissed heading into playoffs, and I feel like he's going to put on a show. Just kind of what I feel like is going to happen. Whether or not they lose in the first round, I still feel like Matthews won't be the one to blame. I don't. To be honest with you, I really do feel like this playoffs could be an insane one for Matthews. That could be just me, but honestly, I think it could be a very fun playoffs when it comes to watching Austin Matthews play. But anyways, we'll move on to John Tavares, obviously the captain of the team. 72 games played. One of the mistakes that I made in the previous clip that I just said, screw it, I'm just going to scratch it. I said he had 72 goals in not 72 games played. 32 goals, 43 assists for 75 points. Having yet again another good season for Toronto. Of course, feels like he's old. He feels like he's way older than he is. Like, he's not even really that old. I thought he was like 39, but he's not. He's much younger than that. I was like, wow. He's putting up 75 points at 39. He's not 39. Michael Bunting then. Bunting, obviously, he's had his issues with referees. Obviously, if you go back far enough, I was a huge fan of Michael Bunting when he was on the Coyotes, but of course that's a long time removed now. 73 games played, 21 goals, 25 assists for 46 points. Part of the reason why you need a player like Michael Bunting on your team is to provide physicality and not piss off refs, even though when you are a physical, grit, fighting player like that, you are going to piss off refs. But I would like to mention that Bunting has always been one of those players that definitely plays with an edge and has a really good grit and just really physical. And definitely you need those type of players in the playoffs to make sure that, and Wayne Simmons is another example, you need those type of players in the playoffs to prove that you can definitely race with those teams that have a much more physical and your top guys don't get knocked around. So that's the main reason why Bunting's on this team. We'll see though. But for other players that I thought I'd include, you got Cale Yarncrook as well. Big shout out to him. He was signed mid-off season last year. I thought he was a really good addition for Toronto. I thought he would be a really solid, underrated addition because I liked him last year with the Calgary Flames in the playoffs, and he played really well with Toronto this season. Just didn't crack the top 5 in scores. And then Alexander Kerfoot as well, another solid top 6 forward. There was obviously those rumors of him maybe not staying, but of course those rumors have been killed off, basically. Next up, when you look at their blue liners, you have Morgan Riley with 57 games played, 4 goals, 35 assists for 39 points. Another really solid defenseman. Many would call that season a down year. I don't. I think it's still a solid season overall. I don't expect him to score insane numbers as a defender. Definitely not. Mark Giordano, I've always liked Giordano, even since like his days in Calgary. Always liked him. Definitely he's having an alright year. 72 games played, 4 goals, 20 assists for 24 points. Much better on the defensive side of things. We'll see how he will do come playoff time. It was alright last year. I can't really remember much of last year with him. But yeah. Timothy Liljegren, 59 games played, 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points. Of course, Liljegren has had his rumors of being moved out. He wasn't, though. Still an alright defenseman. Always makes iffy plays every now and then, but every defenseman does. Every player that I mentioned will. It just happens at one point in everybody's career. Justin Holl, who was not traded to Washington, played 71 games, had 2 goals, 15 assists for 17 points. That was Rasmus Sandin, not Justin Holl. I don't know why I thought it was Holl, but no. Holl is now, of course, still with Toronto. So still an alright player, but obviously also has his mistakes too. So we'll see where that amounts, of course. When it comes to like the rookies and the deadline acquisitions, we'll start with the rookies. You got Pontus Holmberg, who I believe I mentioned in my rookie spotlights video, if I'm correct. Toronto does not have a lot of rookies that come into the lineup, and I'll mention why in a little bit here. But Holmberg, 37 games played, 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points. He's been all right. Definitely not bad having 13 points in your first NHL stint. He also hasn't played a lot either, so that isn't all too bad. So we'll see if maybe he'll get another big shot when it comes to it. Potentially next season, who knows? Maybe he'll become a permanent player in the lineup, maybe playing 4th line, 3rd line, who knows? We'll see what amounts to that. But when you look at their deadline acquisitions, as I mentioned, they pulled through this year. They got 5 deadline acquisitions that I would argue are really solid. 3 of them, I believe, actually maybe even 4 of them, 3 of them, I believe, are defensemen. So I definitely do like that. That's obviously been one of their biggest issues that people look at time and again, is definitely that blue line, and how, it's always been one of those biggest problems for Washington. And as I mentioned, like, you point the finger to guys like Justin Holl, to Rasmus Sandin, to Timothy Liljegren. Obviously, those guys have gotten the finger pointed to them a lot of times. But, of course, I think these acquisitions have been solid. You start off with Ryan O'Reilly, who I believe is not injured anymore. I think he came back and played that game against Boston. It's just that when they clinched, he was. O'Reilly, 8 games played, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Another solid forward. Definitely had his struggles in St. Louis, but now that he's with Toronto, I definitely think he will do very well, 100%. Jake McCabe up next. 13 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. Definitely scoring not too well, but of course McCabe, defenseman, definitely makes that blue line very, very stacked, and I love it. Probably going to play probably second pairing. I don't know. There's a lot of options that they have now, Toronto, and I look at them like I look at Boston. Now they don't have the firepower that Boston does on their blue line, but I feel like they're deep. They have options. They can definitely sit out a defender that would usually play in the playoffs, like Boston can. So that's kind of what I think when I look at it. Nola Chari, 17 games played, 3 goals, no assists for 3 points. Obviously a part of that Ryan O'Reilly deal. But yeah, Achari could make it up for a solid depth player, of course. Obviously he's overlooked, but I feel like he could play a decent role in the playoffs. We'll see though. Then as well as that too, you got Sam Lafferty, who was looked at to be probably like a third, fourth line goal scorer. Hasn't been that so far, but 13 games played, 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points. Of course, sometimes it takes a long time for a player to adjust, but I am liking Lafferty and his odds so far to play with the Maple Leafs come playoff time. I definitely think he could be a part of a third line that could be very, very good. Then last but not least, Eric Gustafsson. I've had my opinions on Gustafsson. I won't deny that. But Gustafsson this season, 8 games played, no goals, 1 assist, 1 point with Toronto so far. We'll see what amounts to it, but really, I think Gustafsson's going to just stay as like a depth defenseman, won't play in playoffs. If he plays in playoffs, I'll genuinely be shocked, and I'll be mad, too. I did not like Gustafsson in Philadelphia at all. Let's look at their goalies. And their goalies have been heavily controversialized, if that's a word, a number of times since I've become a fan. But Ilya Samsonov, to start off, 36 games played, 24-9-3 record with a 2.46 goals against average and a .914 save percentage. I said at the beginning of the year that this goaltending would not fly. I still kind of do believe it, but I have a lot more faith in Samsonov and Murray than I did Campbell and Anderson in the playoffs, to be honest, because I feel like a lot of these teams are going to come in, they're going to see these goalies and be like, oh yeah, we'll score on them. Then they don't. I feel like a lot of teams could take Toronto easily. I feel like Tampa will take Toronto easily. Honestly, I'm probably going to be wrong on that end, but I feel like it very well could happen. Then you got Matt Murray there too, 25 games played, 14-8-2 record with a 2.97 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. Of course, when you look at their goaltending, you could realistically, if Samsonov doesn't feel all right, you could bring Matt Murray into the lineup, and Matt Murray could do his playoff magic. Even though Matt Murray, I believe, is day-to-day right now, he's dealt with so many injuries, and that's kind of what screwed him over this year. And that's kind of what screwed him over for a while, it feels like now. But obviously, he's had a pretty solid year this season in the games that he has played. But here's what I wonder. What happens come playoff time? We'll look at their injuries, and then we'll get into that question. Their injuries, they have Jake Muzzin, who's out, which will definitely hurt them. But I think their blue line, they got enough acquisitions that they could fill that hole. But really, I wouldn't disagree with you if you said, no. And then they got Nick Robertson, too, there, and then Victor Mete, who I used to call Victor Meat, but anyways. Then there's that question of what happens come playoff time. There's a lot of factors that I play into the playoffs, and we'll definitely go more in depth with it when it comes to the, of course the playoffs, but the playoff preview. But one thing that I do wonder when it comes to Toronto is home ice advantage. That's the one thing that I'm wondering. Obviously they don't have that good of a record on the road, but I don't think Tampa has that good of a record on the road either. So the fact that you have home ice advantage could prove huge here for Toronto as well. And then the other big question that I have is that goaltending. Can Samsonov and Murray really help them and boost them into the playoffs? That's the biggest question that I've been asking myself. We'll see, but honestly, there's a lot more factors on Tampa's side that I think could play into how Toronto wins this one, but we'll get into that in the Tampa Clinched video, and of course, as well as that too, the series preview, which will happen probably this time next weekend. So yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. For all of your supporters, I really do appreciate it. Please make sure to check out our other socials. But yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.